Hi everybody, I have a project to share with you today. We are working on this Brontosaurus kit. It's a hand stitching project by ThreadFollower that you can find at achildsdream.com. It comes with everything you need to make a little Brontosaurus. It is adorable. It did take a little bit of time, and you can squeeze 2 projects out of this kit if you just have one more piece of teal felt, which I just went to my stash of felt and got another color in order to make another one. So I made one as a sample to show my son, and then my son made one too, and at the very end of this video you'll be able to see his Brontosaurus, and it turned out fabulous, and it took him half the time it took me because I made a number of mistakes, which I'm going to tell you how to avoid them so that your project can go about really quickly. I did go ahead and label my pattern so that the next time we do this I'll know which colors to make them. And you do need to pin them down, and the pins don't come in the kit, but the needle for this project does come in the kit. So I went ahead and I pinned everything down, and you're going to need to cut 2 out of the green fabric, but it already comes with 2 patterns for the lower part, which is in the teal fabric. So I went ahead and cut all of those out, and now you can take the pins out and then you can get ready to stitch them together. Now it comes with embroidery floss, and this is a very nice high quality embroidery floss, and it has 6 strands of yarn threaded together, so you just want to separate them so that you have just 3 strands together, and then it fits through the needle just fine, and also isn't too bulky for the felt, which is also a really nice high quality felt. It's 100% wool, and so your finished project is going to be not just beautiful but also very durable. I've noticed that when I use 100% wool felt, our projects tend to look better longer, and they last longer as well. So I'm showing you 2 ways to stitch this. One is to have the thread just single and not doubled. So you just want to knot it and make sure that the knot is on the inside of your project. And later I'm going to show you what it looks like when you have it doubled. And I think both ways are fine. Now, in order to squeeze 2 projects out of this kit, I would say do it single the way I'm doing it now, and also to make it maybe not as tight as the way I did it. When I first started this project, I was working really tightly and very closely to the edge of the felt. And this is how you would do it with just 2 pieces. You just want to tie both pieces off at the bottom rather than knotting just the single strand. Then you go ahead and just hide that little knotted piece on the inside of your project. The only thing that I had a problem with was cutting my excess piece of thread too close to my knot, and what ended up happening was that my knot came untied. So the solution for this, later on in the video I'll show you what I did when my knots became untied and I had already moved on to another part of the project. So you just want to give it a little bit of a leeway when you tie off your knot, and then just tuck it in where it can't be seen. So this is kind of important. It took me a while to figure this part out, but you sew the legs together, then you're going to sew the body on either side of the leg, but you want to make sure that when you've sewn the legs together, you've left an opening in order to stuff your animal with the wool that also comes in the kit. So you can see kind of the little opening at the bottom, and I'm going to give you a closer look in a second, but this is what it looks like when you get both of the body parts onto the legs. Now, most of the project went about pretty easily, but there are a couple of areas that if you are working with a young child, you may need to help your child. And I didn't need to help my son too much other than to help him thread his needle. And his project turned out just fine in the end, even though there were some parts where I was like, well, I could have helped you a little bit more in that area, but it really didn't matter. So when you see his project, you'll understand a little better how it doesn't matter that you're not too precise. I spent a lot of time trying to make sure that the stuffing was in all the way to the tip, especially of the tail, and then up into the head. But in the end, once you have it all together, it just looks so darling and adorable. It's such a cute project, and I can't wait to make another one, because now that I have the pattern and embroidery floss from my own stash, and of course I have a lot of felt to choose from, you can make them as many as you want and in different colors if you wished. Alright, so my 6-year-old daughter is helping me with this part, and that's just to stuff it with the wool that comes in the kit. And this is what it looks like when it's all stuffed and nearly done. But you can see there how some of my threads came undone, so I'm going to secure them with a little bit of hot glue, which isn't a bad idea even if your knots are well tied, because I do intend for my children to play with this a lot, and I think that just adds a little bit more security to your project after all the work you really wouldn't want to come undone. I'm just adhering this tail to the dinosaur. I stitched on either side, and now I'm stitching it down the center, making sure that I get the felt that's underneath, the part that's part of the dinosaur body. And then the last thing is just to add this little detail here right in the center where the tail meets the dinosaur body, and you can see that there. Alright, so I want to go ahead and stitch close that little opening at the bottom there. My daughter at first said to leave it open so that it could be kind of like a finger puppet, and that's an option as well. I don't think a lot of the wool batting would fall out unless you intentionally pulled it out, and my children are older, so that would be something that you could do. And then the last thing that you want to do, well actually the second to last thing you want to do, is add a little eye to your dinosaur head, and then just tie it off. And again, I added a little bit of hot glue to that piece just so that it wouldn't come undone. Alright, so this last part I had a lot of trouble with. You need to do a chain stitch around the outside. This is just for detail, and I tried my hardest to do one and I just couldn't. So if you know how to sew, I'm sure that this is a simple stitch that you could do. I just kind of went about with a straight stitch in a circular fashion, and it didn't turn out all that well. And at this point my daughter really wanted the dinosaur, and so I stopped at just one rather than doing a couple more. Now this was a really long project. It took over an hour to do. I would say probably 1 to 2 hours for mine. My son did his in about an hour or less, and his is the one with the lighter colored embroidery floss, and he did fantastic. You can barely tell the hour difference in the time that it took me to do mine versus the time it took him to do his. If you want to check out some of the other projects and tutorials on my channel, you can click on the screen right now, and don't forget that you can find more information about this product in the description box below.